1978 F1 world champion Mario Andretti says ex-Red Bull racer Sergio Pérez is an option for 2026 new entrant Cadillac, alongside its expected first pick, IndyCar driver Colton Herta. Andretti, who serves on the Cadillac team's board of directors, says the second seat will definitely be an experienced driver, with 3 potential candidates to choose from. Andretti would not name who the American startup squad is looking at, but expected additional options include Mercedes reserve Valtteri Bottas and Ferrari reserve Zhou Guanyu, who was managed by new Cadillac team principal Graham Loudon, formerly with Marussia. F1 commentator Alex Jakes says that Oscar Piastri kept his post-win celebrations muted in Shanghai, with the McLaren driver focused on the marathon stoush for the crown. Piastri cruised to the win in China, his third in F1, well ahead of McLaren teammate Lando Norris. And Jakes, in a chat with official podcast F1 Nation, says the Aussie's biggest tests are ahead.
He wasn't challenged at any point of that race. It was very, very impressive. I can see why he's satisfied. Wasn't much of a celebration though, was there, from him? And the reason there wasn't much of a celebration is that he knows this is going to be an extreme test of a driver just in his 3rd season, but he has a legitimate shot to win the World Championship.
Pierre Gasly empathizes with his rookie teammate Jack Doohan, who he says has been put under an unfair amount of pressure to perform at French team Alpine from the outset. Doohan is under threat of being replaced at Alpine if he can't perform at Gasly's level, with hotshot reserve Franco Colapinto waiting in the wings. But Gasly, in an extensive chat with F1's official podcast Beyond the Grid, says that he knows what it feels like.
He's a fast guy, honestly. I know he's not having the easiest way into Formula One, and there are many situations where I can relate with what I had to go through at some stage in my career. And I didn't feel good, I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy those times. And in a way, I don't feel like I want him to have these similar feelings which I had, because F1 is all about, you need to enjoy your time. We're lucky to be in the position we are.
Mercedes Strategic Development Director Simone Resta says frontrunners McLaren can be usurped with development, and that the Silver Squad just wants to go for it. Mercedes heads to Japan second in F1's constructors' standings, behind dominant Mark McLaren with 21 points the gap. But Resta says you only need to look at the past to see what can be done.
The gap is big. They are clearly ahead. After the test, we thought to be together with the Red Bull and the Ferrari fighting, for the second position after them. And this will push very hard to close that gap. And we need to remember that last year, Red Bull was quite well ahead of anyone else, with a much bigger gap to the McLaren. And then at the end of the year, McLaren was able to close the gap and even to overtake them. So everything is possible. We just want to go for it.
Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso will be keen to see the checkered flag at the next race in Japan, with the 2-time world champion the only driver yet to finish a race this season. Alonso crashed out of the opening round in Australia with his AMR 25 in the barriers at turn 8 on lap 34. While in China, the Spaniard did not even last that long, following a super scary brake failure at turn 1 on lap 4. But while Alonso scrubbed off speed by downshifting, he said it could have been so much worse. If that happens in turn 14 or wherever, I think it could be a massive crash, because I would take 4 or 5 cars in front of me out of the race, he said. Carlos Sainz has pored over the data ahead of Japan to help him re-find form he lost across the opening 2 races, with the Williams pilot stating it's one of the strangest performance swings of his career. Sainz topped preseason testing, but has struggled to continue that pace since he crashed out of the season-opening race in Australia on lap 1, with front tire graining his biggest issue. But the Spaniard is determined to rediscover his speed. At least we have now a good 10 days to analyze what went wrong and put together a plan to come back stronger in Japan, Sainz said. McLaren's 2023 car, the MCL60, got a run at Barcelona last week, with flying Finn Valtteri Bottas behind the wheel as part of his role as reserve driver for Mercedes and customers McLaren and Williams. Bottas, who rejoined Mercedes as reserve this year, enjoyed his first laps in an F1 car since he jumped out of the Sauber at the Abu Dhabi season finale last year. His 246th F1 start, for equal 13th on the all-time list with current pundit and commentator David Coulthard. Sebastian Vettel has backed his former rival Lewis Hamilton's crusade for a record 8th crown at Ferrari, with the German complimenting the Brit on his dedication to speaking out on important issues. Vettel fought with Hamilton during various stages of his career, including across 6 seasons with Ferrari from 2015 to 2020. But the German, who left Ferrari for Aston Martin and then retired from F1 at the end of 2022, has since nailed his colors to the red mast, with Vettel respecting the Brits' values. It's great to see he's still on the grid and still has that influence, and he uses it in a positive manner, Vettel said. So naturally, my fingers are crossed for him to win the championship. But also Charles Leclerc is there. I raced with him. Renovations on Budapest's Hungaroring circuit are progressing faster than expected, with ticket sales for new sections of the main grandstand set to go ahead this week. The iconic track's redevelopment, which began in July last year, is set to focus on upgrading facilities rather than the track, and includes a more modern F1 paddock, main building, and grandstand. (2025's Hungarian Grand Prix forms a double-header with Belgium and is then followed by F1's traditional summer break. The sport then returns to the track with another double-header. Screaming V10 engines could make a return to F1 from as early as 2028, with the sport seeking a simpler, cheaper alternative to hybrids. The sport introduced its current power unit, comprising 1.6-litre turbo V6 engines with multiple energy recovery systems in 2014, as automotive manufacturers ramped up electrification plans. But while a more simplified power unit is set to be introduced from next season, with incoming manufacturers like Ford and Audi attracted by the removal of the complex MGU-H system, the sport is considering going one step further, though ancient engines would be considered a step back for the high-tech sport. That's something we are evaluating, or for 2029 or whatever, with the PU manufacturers, said FIA single-seater director Nicholas Tombasis. We are discussing openly with them the best direction for the sport. Thanks for watching. To stay up to speed on all things Formula One, make sure you hit the subscribe button.